let's continue guys. Now, let's see what are the effects of antidiuretic hormone, that's the ADH, on the collecting ducts. First of all, where this antidiuretic hormone is produced? Very important for the exams. Antidiuretic hormone, it is produced in the hypothalamus. Not from the posterior pituitary guys, hypothalamus. Which nucleus of the hypothalamus? Supraoptic nucleus. I have given the mnemonic also previously. The mnemonic is SOAP mnemonic. Supraoptic nucleus produces the antidiuretic hormone and the paraventricular nucleus produces the oxytocin. Now, where this antidiuretic hormone is stored? It is stored in the posterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary. Okay, it is stored in the posterior pituitary. Where is it acting? What are the receptors? Acting on the V2 receptors. But acts on which part of the nephron? This antidiuretic hormone is acting on collecting ducts. Okay, acting on collecting ducts. Which part of the collecting ducts? Both cortical as well as medullary. Both cortical as well as medullary. But it mainly acts on the medullary collecting ducts. Okay. Now, what is the mechanism of action? Let me explain you the mechanism of action. See, guys, whenever there is antidiuretic hormone, first of all, you have to know when there will be antidiuretic hormone. What is the stimulus for the antidiuretic hormone? The stimulus for the antidiuretic hormone is same whenever you are having the fluid loss out of the body. Okay, fluid loss. Okay. So, whenever you are losing the fluids in the form of sweating, the diarrhea, or whatever might be the reason, you are losing the fluid or hemorrhage. Whenever you are losing the water out of the body or fluids out of the body, what do you think will happen to your plasma? The plasma is getting diluted or concentrated. There will be hypertonic plasma, concentrated plasma. So, whenever there is fluid loss or dehydration, there will be hypertonic plasma. Okay. So, this hypertonic plasma is the stimulus for the release of antidiuretic hormone. So, what is the major stimulus for the release of aldosterone? It's the hyperkalemia. And what is the stimulus for the release of antidiuretic hormone? It's the hypertonic plasma. Okay. Now, where this antidiuretic hormone is coming and acting? See, this antidiuretic hormone is coming and acting on the collecting ducts. On which receptors? On V2 receptors. Now, whenever this V2 receptor is activated, okay, so intracellular CAMP levels are going to be increased, the cyclic AMP, secondary messenger. Now, tell me what happens because of this V2 receptor activation. Now, on this collecting ducts, there is production of, previously these channels are not there. Now, because of the V2 receptor activation, these aquaporin 2 channels, see, all these are aquaporin 2 channels. These aquaporin 2 channels are produced. Okay, the aquaporin 2 channels are produced, and these aquaporin 2 channels helps in water reabsorption. Okay, helps in water reabsorption. Now, tell me, the collecting duct usually impermeable to water. Okay, it's not reabsorbing any water, but in the presence of antidiuretic hormone becomes water permeable. Without ADH, no water reabsorption, but with ADH becomes water permeable. So, such type of water reabsorption is called as facultative water reabsorption. So, now tell me, my dear students, see, usually collecting duct is impermeable to water. Collecting ducts are not permeable to water, they are not reabsorbing water. But under the effect of antidiuretic hormone, in the presence of antidiuretic hormone, the collecting ducts become water permeable. So, such type of water reabsorption is called as facultative water reabsorption. But PCT, it's not like that. PCT doesn't require any hormone. So, in PCT, doesn't matter ADH is there or not. Always 70% water reabsorption will occur because 70% sodium reabsorption, so 70% water reabsorption. That is called as a obligatory water reabsorption in PCT. But in collecting duct, it's a facultative water reabsorption dependent on antidiuretic hormone. With antidiuretic hormone, water reabsorption. Without antidiuretic hormone, no water reabsorption. Done? Next, by acting on collecting duct, just now I have told you, by acting on collecting duct, it shows solute free water reabsorption. What does it mean by solute free? Look, these aquaporin channels, they are reabsorbing the water, just water. Any sodium is getting reabsorbed? No. From the beginning, what I am teaching you, wherever sodium goes, water follows. But here there is no sodium reabsorption. So, this water reabsorption is not a solute dependent. This is not sodium dependent. This is solute free. Just water is getting reabsorbed. Only water is getting reabsorbed. So, tell me, by acting on the collecting duct, it shows solute free water reabsorption. Next question. Look, under the ADH means whenever there is antidiuretic hormone, greatest volume of water is reabsorbed in. Usually students will think, sir, in the presence of antidiuretic hormone, maximum water is reabsorbed in the collecting ducts. This is how the students will think. No guys. Always remember, antidiuretic hormone is there or not there. Doesn't matter. If they use the word maximum water reabsorption or the greatest volume of water reabsorption, always occurs in PCT because 70% guys. Okay, so antidiuretic hormone is there or not there, it doesn't matter. Always greatest volume of water is reabsorbed in PCT. In the presence of antidiuretic hormone or in the absence of antidiuretic hormone, doesn't matter. Always greatest volume of water reabsorption occurs in PCT. Okay, but if they ask a question in a little different way, like antidiuretic hormone under ADH, under ADH, water reabsorption occurs in. Now tell me, under antidiuretic hormone, water reabsorption occurs in collecting ducts. That's fine. ADH causes water reabsorption in collecting ducts. But if they use the word maximum water reabsorption or greatest volume of water reabsorption, that always occurs in PCT. Okay, that should be your answer. Done. Next, ADH receptors. Now, you already know ADH acts on V2 receptors, but also on V1 and V3. So tell me, antidiuretic hormone has V1, V2, V3 receptors. 3 types of receptors are there. Where exactly this V2 receptor present? You already know V2 receptors are present on collecting ducts. Collecting ducts. So when the V2 receptor on the collecting ducts are stimulated, what will happen? There will be water reabsorption. You all know with the help of aquaporin 2 channels. But the same V2 receptors are also present on your endothelial cells. Endothelial cells. When these V2 receptors are stimulated, when the V2 receptors on the endothelial cells are stimulated, now these endothelial cells will release von Willebrand's factor, which helps in clotting. Okay, von Willebrand factor helps in platelet adhesion, later platelet aggregation, later clot formation. Now done. Where these V1 receptors are present? The V1 receptors are present on the smooth muscles of blood vessels. Okay, smooth muscles of the blood vessels. Now, when you stimulate the V1 receptor, what do you think will happen to the blood vessels? The blood vessels will undergo vasoconstriction. So, there will be vasoconstriction. Okay. Now, so that's why we call antidiuretic hormone also as vasopressin, because it's pressing the blood vessels. It's causing the vasoconstriction. Next, what about this V3? V3 receptors are present on the anterior pituitary. Okay, on the corticotropes, let's say on the corticotropic cells of the anterior pituitary. When you stimulate the corticotropes of the anterior pituitary, these cells, the corticotropes in the anterior pituitary will release the ACTH. Now you tell me ACTH helps in the production of what? ACTH helps in the production of steroids, mainly cortisol. Okay, mainly cortisol. So now students will start to have a little doubt. So what exactly is the action of the antidiuretic hormone? Final action. Try to understand. See, if you cause vasoconstriction, what is the result? There is increased BP. Vasoconstriction increases the BP. Increase water reabsorption, increase the blood volume, that further increases the BP. Cortisol, you also know, increases BP. ACTH also helps in the production of aldosterone. Aldosterone increases the sodium levels, that increase the BP. Okay, so the point which I am trying to teach you here, the antidiuretic hormone can increase your BP by different mechanisms. By production of cortisol, by increasing the water reabsorption, by causing vasoconstriction. Okay, these are all the different mechanisms by which it can increase your BP. Next, after knowing what is normal, now look at the clinical integration. Guys, look at this diagram that I am showing you. What happened here? This is a patient whose esophageal veins are dilated. The esophageal veins are dilated, maybe because of the portal hypertension due to cirrhosis. So here the patient is suffering with esophageal varices. Esophageal varices, the dilated esophageal veins. Now at any point of time, they will undergo rupture that will lead to bleeding that can kill the patient. So now tell me, as a doctor, what we have to do? We have to constrict these blood vessels. We have to constrict these blood vessels. So if you want to constrict this blood vessel, which receptor you have to stimulate? V1 receptor. So there is a drug called as terlipressin, which will go and stimulate V1 receptors on the veins. So when the V1 receptors are stimulated, the blood vessels will undergo vasoconstriction. So that's why it's a drug of choice for esophageal varices. See, for esophageal varices, octreotide can be used, but that's not the drug of choice. The drug of choice is terlipressin, which is the V1 receptor stimulant. Drug of choice for esophageal varices. Next, there is a condition called as von Willebrand's disease. Okay, what is von Willebrand's disease? In von Willebrand's disease, there is deficiency of, tell me, deficiency of von Willebrand's factor. Deficiency of von Willebrand factor. Without von Willebrand factor, the platelet adhesion aggregation will not occur, clot formation will not be happening, so there will be bleeding. Okay, there will be bleeding. It's a bleeding disorder. So von Willebrand factor is not there, so the patients are having this bleeding. Now you tell me, whenever there is a deficiency of von Willebrand factor, what do you have to do? You have to increase the levels of von Willebrand factor so that bleeding can stop. So how can we increase the von Willebrand factor? By stimulating V2 receptor. Have I told you? If you stimulate the V2 receptors, endothelial cells will release von Willebrand factor. So that's why in the treatment of von Willebrand disease, we are using a drug called as a desmopressin, which will stimulate V2 receptors. V2 receptor stimulant we are using. Done. So the same desmopressin can also be used in the treatment of diabetes insipidus. Now what exactly is this diabetes insipidus? Okay, that we will discuss in the next video. So in this video, we have completely seen what is the mechanism of action of antidiuretic hormone, where is it acting, how it is acting, and what are the important points we have covered. In the next video, we will be discussing about what is SIADH and diabetes insipidus. Okay, what is the pathophysiology and what is the treatment. Okay, hope the video is helpful. Thank you.